So good morning everyone. Today we'll start with the ER diagram, entity relationship diagram. So basically the developing a database is very important task to develop any system, right? So before going to form exact database like its tables and establishing relationships between them, we conceptually or logically can model our database using these ER diagrams. Okay, so today we'll learn about this entity relationship diagrams. We'll learn how to find its entities, attributes, how to make relationships between those entities for the system, and will represent those things, that how to represent those data model through this ER diagram. So the objective of this basically ER diagram, ER designing activity is nothing to but to obtain this concept, so these components of ER model, and these ER diagrams are, you can say, the very useful tools to develop and describe the ER model of your database. So for that, we can use this ER diagram, ER designing activity to obtain this particular components like entities, relationship, whatever there are in your database. We can have those components of the ER model. So as I told you that it is used to represent one kind of logical design of your database, and that is to be creative. Now, in this ER model, the real world objects, real world concepts are abstracted as entities, and different possible association among them are modeled as relationship, right? So whatever the objects are there, that can be represented as entities, and association between those objects, those concepts among like in the real world, that we can depict it using the relationships. For example, if we say a basic example like student and school. So student and school are the two entities. Students study in school. Okay. So these two entities, you can say, are associated with the relationship study same. Okay, students study in school. Now, say for example, a system is there. One system is there where some jobs, a job is running every night, and that ultimately updates the database. Okay, that jobs database. So you can say that here that job and that database are two entities, and as I told you, that job runs every night and it updates the database. So you can say that updates run is the relationship between those entities. So these ER models are usually represented graphically, and the language we are going to use to represent these entities are nothing but like this, some kind of symbols, rectangle, diamonds, okay, connector lines or whatever. So here, as you can see that this box represents an entity, a line represents the relationship that connect those entities, name and address. Okay, so now what is entity set and a relationship set? So this entity set is nothing but a collection of all similar entities. Like if we talk about student, so student is an entity set that abstracts all students. Okay, like John, Ram, Joy. So our we can say those are the specific entities. Okay, like those are the specific entities which belong to that student set. Similarly, a relationship. So relationship set is a set of the similar kind of relationships. Okay, so now the next thing is the attributes of your entity. So as we know that the attribute is nothing but a one kind of characteristic property of your entity, and it just describe whatever the entity is belong to that particular entity set. It just describes its unique characteristics or its characteristics. Okay, so an entity can have zero or more number of characteristics, that means zero or more number of attributes, and it is very much essential that for an entity to have one or more attributes which ultimately help us to distinguish it from other entities in your system, in your diagram. So for example, like any student is having, we know that student can have its name, age, address, roll number, course, grade. So you can say those are the nothing but the characteristics, attributes of that particular entity set student. Now there are see, there are many attributes. So those one or more attributes of an entity set can be used to define these keys. Okay, starting with the super key. So what is that super key is? So you can say that the super key is a set of attributes that collectively identifies an entity in the entity set. Okay, it is nothing but a set of attributes that collectively identifies your entity. Like one or more attributes which can taken together, it will help us to identify, to uniquely identify your entity in your entity set. Say for example, a school. So a school can have any number of students, but if we name can be similar. So but if we know the grade and roll number in which class that student is studying currently and its roll number, so because roll in school the roll numbers can also be same. Okay, it is not like that ui 18 or ui 17. Okay, or it can be possible in some schools like having some notation for grade in the roll number. But if we talk about the in general scenario, so like 1 to 100, so the grade, if we have the grade and roll number together, then we can uniquely identify a student in that school, which is nothing but a super key, which is nothing but a set of attributes that collectively uniquely identifies your entity. Okay, then comes the candidate key. So candidate key is nothing but a minimal super key, or minimal super key is known as that candidate key, and you can say that entity set may have more than one candidate key. Okay, it is nothing but one kind of minimal subset of your super key. So you can say that your super key can have some extraneous attributes, which ultimately do not help in identifying an object uniquely. So we can remove those attributes, and whatever the thing we have that we can say is nothing but the candidate key. Then comes the primary key. As we know that a primary key is nothing but one of the candidate keys which can be chosen by the database designer or whatever the data designer analyst to uniquely identify the entity set. Okay, it is nothing but one of the candidate key uh, that can be taken to uniquely identify your entity. Like a database might have more than one candidate key. So you can say that any candidate key can be taken for a particular implementation of your system, of your database, and we can say that as a primary key. Now the prime attribute. So what's that prime attribute? So prime, any attribute which is taking part in a super key is known as this prime attribute. Okay, so here this is one example. Like as I told you that it is very much essential for an entity to have one or more attributes which would ultimately help us to distinguish it from another entities in your system. So here say member is my entity and these are its attributes. So if we talk about the name, okay, so name, we know that name can't help it because two persons could have the same, exactly the same name. However, if we take the name and phone number together as a combination, then it would help us to uniquely identify that person, because because we know that no two persons can have the same phone number. Okay. After that, there's also this name phone number combination as well as this email address and employee id can also be the super key. Okay, because we know what is the super key. Super key is nothing but a set of attributes which can collectively taken to uniquely identify your entity set. So this all would help us to uniquely identify the things: email, employee ID, and phone number and name, the combination of this two attributes. This can be taken as a super key. Now, if we talk about the candidate key of this particular example, so we can say that this employee ID, email ID can be the candidate key. Okay, then we can choose one primary key from the candidate keys available. So we can say that the employee ID is the unique one. We can easily identify the employee or the member from the employee ID, from its employee ID. So we choose employee ID to uniquely identify your user, your member in your database. And that is nothing but the primary key of our database and of our member entity. And we have to remember that primary key is noted by underlying that particular attribute. Okay, in some versions of your ER diagram, you can see that primary key is shown by some extra sign here. Okay, after the name written of that attribute. So we are following this approach. Clear this? Super key, candidate key, prime attribute. I think that you have learned all these things in your previous semester. That's why I'm just quickly revising it. Is it so? पढ़ा है ना ये सब कुछ? Yeah. Okay, so now the types of attributes. So the attribute can be composite attribute, single valued attribute, multi-valued derived attribute. So when attribute is a combination of other attributes, so we can say that it is a composite attribute. For example, a student is there, and a student is having address. Okay, so address can be made up of that pin, state, country, okay, whatever the things are there. So it is of that category. Then the single valued attribute, it is very much basic. That attribute will only contain a single value, like Aadhaar number, PAN number, social security number. So that can be single valued attribute. Then multi-valued attribute is nothing but if an attribute can have more than one value, so we can say that it is of that category. And multi-valued attributes are depicted by the double eclipse. So for example, a person can have more than one phone number, more than one email address, so we can say that it is of that category. Then say derived attribute. So what is that derived attribute? Derived attributes are those attributes that does not exist in the physical database, okay, but their values are derived from other attributes present in the database. All those previous categories attributes can exist in your physical database, But here this derived attribute does not exist physically in your database. There is no column of that attribute in your database for your entity, for that particular entity, but we can derive its value from the other attributes which are present in your database. For example, we can say that age. So age can be derived attribute. Say for example, we are deriving age from the date of birth. Okay, so that is nothing but your derived attribute, and that derived attribute is represented using this dashed eclipse. So now in this particular example, you can see that different kinds of attributes, different types of attributes. Okay. So yeah, from this entity and relationship, like we can have this, for example, account number is one entity, and we are having this much attributes of that account holder entity. For account, we are having two attributes: account number, opening balance. And if we want to represent this basic entities using relationships, so we can represent it, this basic thing, like this way, by having relationship owns that account holder owns account. Okay, and these are the attributes that which we have shown here, the basic representation of entity and relationship. Now comes the weak entity. So an entity set is said to be weak if it is dependent upon another entity set. Okay, an entity set is said to be a weak entity if and only if it is dependent upon another entity. So a weak entity can't be uniquely identified by its attributes. In other words, you can say that it doesn't have a super key. So weak entities are nothing but the entities only, but the difference is that the weak entities only exist because some other entity exists. For example, if you define two entities, employee and salary history, okay, then the second salary history would be a weak entity because the record of an entity's salary history could not exist. The record of an employee's salary history could only exist if a record of an employee exists. Clear? This will only exist if the record of this employee is there. Say for example, some person A's salary history would not make much sense if that person is not exist in the particular database of employee. So a weak entity is represented by this double border rectangle. And here we have shown that this employee has history of his or her salary history. Another example can be one company is having employees travel along. One company is giving his employees to travel allowance. Okay, it is giving its employees travel allowance. So for their immediate family members or for their relatives. So there are two entity sets, say employee and family. Okay, so we can say that that employee can claim for travel allowance of their family, but here that existence of a family is entirely dependent on the particular concerned employee. So we can say that that family is a weak entity in that case. Clear? After that, once there's a relationship between different entity has been established, the database designer or the analyst should determine its cardinalities. Now, what's that cardinality? So, a relationship's cardinality defines the maximum number of entities of one type that can be associated with an entity of another type. Okay, the maximum number of entities of one type can associate with entity of another type. So for relationship between two entity types, there are, you can say, basically four cardinalities, and each of this we will understand this having entity type X and second entity as entity type Y. So first of all, there's one-to-one relationship. So one-to-one means one entity of type X can be associated with at most one entity of type Y. Okay, so one entity of type X can only be associated with at most one entity of type Y, and one entity of type Y can be associated with at most one entity of type X. For example, you can say student is assigned one, a student is having only one student ID, and that one unique student ID is assigned to only one student. Okay, like the relationship between car and steering wheel. So a car has only one steering wheel, and a steering wheel can only be installed in one car only. Then one to many. So one to many means that one entity of type X can be associated with many entities of type Y. Also, in that particular situation, one entity of type Y can be associated with at most one entity of type X. Like a mother is having many children. Okay, so all those children can only have that one mother. Okay, similarly, like one building is having many rooms, but a room can be in at most one building only. After that, many to one. So you can say that any number of entities of type X can be associated with at most one entity of type Y. Okay, like student, many students are studying in one college. Okay, and one college can have many students. So also like many patients can consult one physician, but one physician possible that he's having many patients. Similarly, many to many. So one type of one entity of type X can be associated with many entities of type Y, and one entity of type Y can also be associated with many entities of type X. Say for example, student. So many students are assigned to many projects, and it is also possible that many projects can be given to only one student. Okay, a project can be given to many students, and one student can also be assigned to many projects. Like a relationship between car and the different kinds of options like air conditioning, brakes, or etc. So a car can have many options, and it is also possible that an option can be installed on many cars. Okay, different options can be installed on different cars. So that is nothing but different types of cardinalities, four basic types of cardinalities. Now, uh, we can represent it in different ways in our ER diagram. The marks on the lines tells you that the, the cardinality of your relationship. A small bar of your a small bar across your relationship link indicates that exactly one instance of the entity is associated with another entity. Okay, if I'm having a one small bar across a relationship link that indicates exactly one instance of that entity is associated with another entity, which is nothing but considered as a one, and the crow's feet representation indicates that many relationship. It indicates that that particular entity set or the entity of that particular entity set can be associated uh, with another entity. Okay, many instances of that particular entity can be associated with another entity. So you can also indicate this uh, cardinality or the marks above or below the line, above or below the line. Generally we are writing it below the line, so which is nothing but it will indicate you, it will tell you that the maximum number in your relationship, like this m indicates that the cardinality is many while 1 indicates that the cardinality is 1. And if we have many to many relationship, then we generally indicate it using m and n. So here that is shown here. As I told you, if we have a small bar which is nothing looks like a 1, so that is nothing but indicating that exactly one instance of that particular entity is associated with that another entity. Similarly, a crow's feet indicating that many relationships. So many employee will report to a single manager. Similarly, this. Okay, now then another one is the modality. So a modality of a relationship is zero if there is no explicit need for the relationship to occur or the relationship is optional. See, basically modality will tell you that whether your relationship will exist or not. It is just giving you the information about the existence of your relationship. So if it is zero, that means that there is no explicit need for that relationship to occur, or you can say that your relationship is optional. And if the modality is one, that means an occurrence of the relationship is mandatory. So consider that your software that is used by, for example, your software is used by a local telephone company to process requests for field service, and a customer is indicating that there is some problem, and if that problem is diagnosed as relatively simple, a single repair action would occur. So if the problem is complex, the multiple repair actions would be required, and that is how is shown here. It is showing the relationship is provided with, these are two entities, customer and repair action. Then we have shown the cardinality also, modality also between these two entities, customer and repair. So the cardinality first, it is indicating that a single customer is awaiting for a repair action. And similarly, the crow's feet here at the other side, repair action, it is indicating that there may be many repair actions possible. Similarly, if we talk about the modality, so modality here at the customer side, it implies that in order to have a repair action, we must have a customer. So the existence of that customer is mandatory here. Okay. And at the repair action entity, that can be optional, because it is obvious that there may be a situation in which a repair action is not necessary. So that is nothing but this mandatory thing and the optional thing, which is nothing but the modality of your relationship, that is 0 and 1. A circle, if we have a circle across a relationship which is nothing but looks like a 0, which is indicating that optionality in the relationship means the 0 instances can occur and your existence can be the optional thing of that particular entity. And if we are having a crossbar, a dash line, which is nothing but if it looks like 1, then it tells you the minimum number in that relationship is nothing but the 1. That means that particular entity, the existence is mandatory. Okay. Similarly, in this particular example, the department one, a department is managed by one and only one employee. If we go from left to right, and if we go from right to left, then we can say that an employee may manage no more than one department. Okay, only one department. So here we can say that this department's existence is optional, because we have indicated with a circle, and employee is mandatory. Okay, so to have this particular employee, for the department, the employee is a must, but the employee can exist if there is no department. So that we have shown using this modality. Clear? Did you understand the existence? Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the another example, like one manager is going to report many employees are going to report to a single manager, and if we want to show the instance of that particular entity employee, because there could be more than one instance possible of that entity, and similarly there is if, in this particular scenario we are having only one manager, because many employee, because our relationship is saying that many employees are going to report a single manager, so there will be one instance of that manager also. So the relationship of that instance of that entity can be used or can be represented using this column, and whatever the instance name is there. Okay. Now the degree of a relationship. So the relationship can be classified by the number of entity types which are involved, and that is nothing but the degree of a relationship. Okay. The most common degree of the relationship are unary, that is recursive, binary, and ternary. Degree 1, degree 2, and degree 3, that means nothing but the number of entities that are involved in that particular relationship. So degree 1 indicates that there is only one entity. Binary, nothing means very obvious, two entities, and ternary means three entities. So let's first talk about this binary. So that is a relationship between the two entities. Ternary means a relationship between the three entity types. Like we know that in the real world scenarios there are relationship which is involving more than two things, more than two entities. For example, uh, suppose that we want to capture which employees are using which skills on which project. Okay. So here um, we can say that we can represent this particular data, that which employee is going to use which skill for which project. We can represent this data in a database, like using three binary relationship between skills and project and employee and skills, like this way. Because uh, 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 that is the very basic thing. But in order to capture, like in this particular scenario, this applies will indicate that which employee is going to apply which skill. The used on relationship will indicate that which skill is used on which project. The works on relationship indicate that which employee is going to work for which project. But that is not enough to specify that which employee is going to use which skill on which project. So in order to capture all this necessary information in the database, we need a ternary relationship. Okay. So in this case, the database needs a relationship called, you can say, used on. Here I have provided used on among these three entities: employee, skill, and project. And this used on relationship will capture the information three pieces at a time. Okay. So we can say that uh, the cardinality for this type of relationship, we can say that will assume such things like an employee can use the same skill on many projects, an employee can use many skills on the same project, many employees can use the same skills on the same project. So with assuming all these things, we can say that the cardinality of this particular is many. So it is having many relationship for all these entities with this particular relationship. Okay. Similarly, if we say that there are three entities: customer, car, and salesperson, which is uh, having the common relationship sales. Okay. That customer bought a car from a salesperson, and all these entities are related with a common relationship cell. So that is also nothing but one kind of example of this ternary relationship. Then binary, as I already told you, two entities are that a teacher teaches to many students. Okay, that is nothing but a binary relationship. Now talking about the recursive relationship, unary relationship, as I told you that that is a relationship in which only a single entity will be there. So uh, that is nothing but the relationship of that entity with itself. Okay, say for example, this particular example is there, like one manager is having many employees. Okay, one manager is managing many employees. One employee is now we have just changed that manager person, because the manager is nothing but another just person from the team of that employee. It is also one employee only. Okay, so the manager is really just one another name, you can say, for that employee. So we have replaced that manager with that employee. So we can say that one employee is going to manage many employees. So instead of this employees entities, which is nothing but the same thing, so we can just represent it like this way. Okay, we can just represent it like this way. So this diagram is representing that one employee is managed by many employees, or you can say that all employees are managed by exactly one one employee. Are you getting me this particular diagram? I hope the recursive relationship is clear to you. The another example is that a reviewer. So one reviewer is the group leader of those all reviewers. Okay, and all those reviewers are having a one single group leader, which is nothing but a reviewer only. Okay, so one reviewer is going to lead all those reviewers, and all those reviewers are having one reviewer as a group leader. Clear? Entity subtype partitioning. So, okay, so here, uh, see, it is possible. We know that the entity can have the subtypes. Okay, so we can classify them in many ways. Um and we can give the relationship between the supertype and the subtype entities, starting with the mandatory. So assume that there is one person, and its entities subtypes are the customer and the employee. Okay, now the mandatory relationship indicates that the person can be classified as one of the subtypes, like customer and customer or employee. So wait, the another one is the optional entity. So optional entity is nothing but when we are going to create a database, that a person is allowed to create that person entity without classifying that person as any subtype. Okay, In that mandatory case, it is demanding that first the person should be classified as one of the subtypes, and here the person details can be entered into the database without classifying the person as any subtype. See, neither one is preferable. The one that is choose is based on the business situation or your project situation, and this mandatory subtyping is represented by this creating a double line from the super type to that circle, and optional subtyping is represented by leaving a single line and the circle from that super type to the circle. Is it clear? So this is just representing that whenever a person is going to enter a data about that person entity into the database, it must be first classified as either a customer or an employee. Okay, so the database user cannot just simply am I audible? Hello. Yeah. So whenever a person is going to enter the details of that person entity into the database, it must be first classified as either a customer or a employee. The database person or database user who is going to enter cannot just simply add the information about a generic person and just enter the details about that person. He or she first have to classify that person as one of the subtypes, and if that person is not going to classify and just going to enter the details about that person, then you can say that is the optional partitioning of that subtype. Like say for example that customer is representing here as investor and attendee, so that is the optional relationship which is indicated by this, and this is the mandatory relationship. The difference is that mandatory in mandatory thing, the database person demand that the person can be classified as one of the subtypes, and in optional, the database user or the database person who is going to enter the data will allow a person to be created without classifying the person as any data type. Clear the difference between this mandatory and optional? Another one is, I hope it is clear. Another one is disjoint and overlapping thing. So now if entities are allowed to be no more than one subtype, then the subtypes are said to be disjoint. If and only if your entities are allowed to be no more than one subtype, then the subtypes are said to be disjoint. And overlapping, if entities can be classified as several subtypes, then the subtypes are said to be overlapping. Okay, if the entities can be classified as several subtypes, then those subtypes can be said as overlapping. So this disjoint entities, disjoint subtypes are represented by putting D in the circle, and overlapping subtypes are represented by putting O in the circle, as you can see in this particular diagram. So this D representing that disjoint entity subtyping, which means that whenever the data for a new company is entered into the database, the company can be classified as either this particular AR underscore CO or AP underscore CO, but not both. Why? Because it is having the disjoint relationship. If in that case we are allowing entities to be of only one subtype. Okay, the entities are not allowed to be more than one subtype. Okay, and if this had been an overlapping, then here in this case it would be O here. Okay, means that we can classify that company or the person, whatever the entity is here, we can classify them as both this ARCO and APCO. Similarly, another example for overlapping scenario is celebrity. So celebrity can be classified as several subtypes like movie star, model, or so on. But here we can either go this or this. We can either classify this person, company as this or this. Clear? Yeah. Okay. The next one is aggregation of entity. So the subtypes are, we know that subtypes are generally thought of as an item like X is a Y. Okay, X is a Y. Um, that is nothing but is a relationship. But another type of relationship that needs to be represented in the database is nothing but a part of relationship. Okay, and that is nothing but called as aggregation. So when an entity is made up of several different types of other entities, then we can say that that relationship is nothing but the aggregation relationship, and we can symbolize it with using that a symbol inside the circle. So here, the relationship between a car and its engine and its body. So the engine and body are the part of that car, and here we can say the person is a customer, person is an employee, is which is nothing but the is a relationship. All this, but here aggregation means the part of relationship. So that is nothing but the aggregation relationship, and we can indicate like this way. So these are the basic symbols of this ER diagram, the graphical notations, okay, that we have already seen. Um, so yeah, this ER diagram is very much important for ER model is very much important for the database. Okay, the first step, see, whenever there is one problem is given to you, the first step is to identify its entities, attributes, relationship. Then we represent them using an ER diagram, and using that ER diagram, table structures are created along with its some constraints, some relationship, and finally those tables are normalized. Okay, in order to remove the redundancy and to maintain some data integrity and all those things, so we are going to do the normalization. We'll apply the normalization. So this is the procedure of whenever we are going to do this sort of things. So after all, at the end, will ultimately can solve the data efficiently by maintaining its integrity, by redundancy, by reducing the redundancy. So the ER diagram is drawn considering all these things. Okay, ER diagram is basically serving the purpose for all these things. And to depict any particular system or whatever the problem is given to you, will try to make it more detailed ER diagram and accurate, so that we can have a clear idea about our system. So this is one example of cab management system, ER diagram for the cab management system. Did you first understand all those concepts? आपको आ गए थे वो सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स आगे OOT में? All those aggregation and disjoint mandatory optional thing? Acha, not all. Okay. So is it clear now? Okay, good. What about others? इसके बाद आपका लेक्चर है 11:30 को. Should I cover this or maybe later in lab? अभी एक्सप्लेन कर दूं या लैब में एक्सप्लेन करूं ये डायग्राम? ओके, 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 फाइन. ओके. So yeah, I was saying that as I explained you in morning that this ER diagram is important because anytime we are given with some problem statement, and the first thing we need to identify is entities, the relationship between those entities, its attributes, etc. After that, we represent all those things using this ER diagram. And after that, completing with that ER diagram, the table structures, different table structures are created, and keeping in mind some constraint about that tables and entities and attributes, etc. After that, finalizing all those things, these tables are going to be normalized. Why? Because we need to have a data that is integrate. Okay, because we need to maintain the data integrity as well as we need to have we need to remove the redundancy in data. So we can say that this ER diagram is important to have data by which we can store that data efficiently. Okay, it just helps us to store that data efficiently in database using this ER model. So we can say that we need to have ER diagram that in such a way that it is in much detail, much accurate as much as possible. It should be accurate and in detail. Uh, so that we can ultimately so that it can ultimately help us to define the database tables with much accuracy. So now this is one example of CAD management system. So as you can see here, there are the different entities here: agency, cab, driver, then bill, right driver details. Starting with this agency again, one more thing is that as I told you that there are different versions, different notations for this diagram. One is the chain notation, in which we are going to use like the relationship is going to be represent using that numbers one to many, one, and in the crow's foot notation, that is we are going to use this bar, small bar or circle on the line to define the existence, relationship, etc. So that's the two thing here. I have just put it to just let you understand all those things and all those different notations. So here, starting with another one thing is that in that crow's notation, we are going to have entity uh, as a first rectangle, and after that we are having all those attributes in the second compartment. Okay, after we are going to write all those attributes after this agency, the name of entity, and after that all those attributes are written here in that crow's foot notation. And in chain notation we are going to have it like this way: agency, and then these attributes are written in. See, there are different types of notations for this UML diagram, and the one is the chain notation. Another one is the crowfoot's notation. So in crow's-foot notation, that is nothing but it is derived from that chain notation. In chain notation, we are just having uh, the entity like this, and these attributes are going to be represented like in an oval shape using this connector line, as well as we are going to represent a relationship between those entities like in one to many or using this one m n notations, whereas in that crow's foot notation we are having the entities. Like this way. In a first compartment you are having this entity name, and after that all these attributes are going to be represented and in second compartment after this block only. Okay, after this only we are having this one another box in which we are going to represent this attributes in after that entity name box. Now another thing is that in crow's foot notation we are going to represent those relationship using this small bar and circle on the line. Okay, but here I have just put it in one diagram just to let you understand the different examples of this particular notations. Now here starting with, as you can see that there are many entities. As you can see here, there are many entities: agency, cab, driver, bill, passenger, etc. Starting with this agency, so agency is having this many attributes, among which this register number is the primary key, and address is, as we know, that it is a multi-valued attribute. Because we know that address, the one agency of this cab agency can have multiple address of multiple places. Now one agency owns many cabs, okay, and cab is again having all these attributes. Again here the existing relationship is shown between this cab and repair action, and the repair action can be optional thing. Again here the cab can be AC cab and non-AC cab using this disjoint. And again this non-AC cab or the AC cab, whatever you can show, is aggregated with this body of the car and engine of the car. Same way here also there are some notations that one agency can have many drivers, and all those drivers are having different types of attributes. This is the derived attribute age from the date of birth. Date of birth is the composite attribute. Here the driver ID is your primary key. Again, you can see that one passenger, so passenger can book this cab. Again, between this cab, passenger and ride driver details, these three are in a ternary relationship. Okay, why? Because whenever we book one cab, we have that cab detail, driver detail, and passenger detail, so that we can display here. After that, passenger, driver, and bill is attached, or you can say combined with the ternary relationship, and here it is the written receipt. Whenever we have any bill, we'll have its receipt, and receipt is again having such attributes. Passenger is having some attributes. This is all thing we have covered in detail in class, so I'm just quickly revising it. And again, there's a written receipt. Okay, so one driver can have many written receipts, and again the driver will going to submit that all receipts to this agency. Agency can hire as many driver as they want. Now here again this license is there. This is just a box. So driver has one driver can have only one license. License can be of commercial driver license or driving license or personal driving license. Okay, now that is the optional relationship. Again this license number and renew date, all those attributes are attached here. So the main idea behind this is that you have to represent your ER diagram accurately and in detail, such that it will be helpful for the designer to design the system, and using those databases which we are going to create on the basis of this ER diagram.